He's an interesting guy to look at in terms of how we evaluate his career on the whole. Obviously, he's retired after 18 years after this past season. Clearly a shell of himself at this point, has been for the last couple of years, but I don't think we can look at Big Ben and take what we saw over the last couple of years, even though it's human nature, right? Recency bias. What we've seen over the last couple of years may be how a lot of people remember him, but I don't think that that's the way we should remember him. A lot of people don't remember how great the guy was. Obviously, you're not going to put him up there in the categories of your Tom Brady's, your Peyton Mannings, and those kind of guys. But Big Ben is clearly on that second tier. He's probably going to go into the Hall of Fame on the first ballot. You look at him towards the end and you say, this is a guy who's basically gotten everything possible out of his arm. He can't, with regularity, go down the field anymore the way he used to. He can't move around the way he used to and just shrug defenders off that are hanging all over him and make miraculous plays downfield. That didn't exist anymore for Big Ben. A whole ton of checkdowns, tons and tons of passes for very few yards. But if you look at it, this is a guy who finishes out his career number 5 on the all-time passing yards list. Surely he's going to get passed now with the way the game is played. Obviously, the league trying to legislate out defense for supposedly for fans' sake, but believe it or not, there are a lot of fans who actually like defense, but that's a different story, and I'll get on my soapbox about that another day. But guys coming up, the way they're throwing the ball all over the place now, the way offenses are designed and schemed and all that, they're going to pass him. But for now, he's sitting in 5th all time in passing yards at 64,088 passing yards. He's got 418 career touchdowns, 211 picks. So almost a 2-to-1 interception ratio, which isn't amazing, but isn't terrible. So this is a guy that we watched play his entire career for the Steelers, one of the most storied franchises, one of the most physical divisions in the AFC North, twice a year against the Bengals, twice a year against Cleveland, twice a year against Cincinnati. And I know a lot of you are probably thinking, well, Cincinnati just got good, but they had a very solid, I want to say 10 to 15 year stretch. I want to say 15 years under Marvin Lewis. They weren't winning playoff games, but they were very competitive, very physical, always in competition in that division. Anyway, Big Ben, obviously, he early in his career had some off-field issues, but I'm not the type of guy that really discusses that in terms of what a player is on the field or on the court. I keep it at that. So we look at Big Ben, we say he's probably arguably a top 10 quarterback of all time. He's got 3 Super Bowl appearances and 2 Super Bowl championships, even though in the first one you could probably say he was more along for the ride when they beat Seattle. Tremendous defense, obviously great running game with the bust Jerome Bettis there behind him. You could turn around and hand that off constantly. But at the end of the day, Big Ben, he was tremendous. I think he leads the league history all time with the most 500-yard passing games. I think he's got 5 of those. So even though we tend to think of the Steelers as ultra physical, ultra great defense, ultra great, running the ball throughout its history, it is kind of ironic that the leader in NFL history in 500-yard passing games was a Steeler quarterback. So again, we look at Big Ben. This is a guy who consistently, he was very mobile when he was younger. He could get out of the pocket, move around. Like I said before, this is a guy who, if he's in the pocket, he's got defenders all around him, literally defenders hanging off him. He's 6'5", about 245. So really big, strong, physical dude, able to, stay upright and deliver the ball downfield in tight windows and do all types of things when defenders weren't really making it rough on him. Just an all-around outstanding player. It's going to be interesting to see what the Steelers do here, because obviously with Big Ben as their quarterback, they didn't put a succession plan in place. We have no idea who's going to be the follow-on guy. We've heard Aaron Rodgers on a couple of occasions this year publicly really praising Mike Tomlin. We know the Steelers scouting staff does a really good job in terms of finding outstanding receiver talent. How interesting would it be if we went from Big Ben to Aaron Rodgers in Pittsburgh? Now, as a Raven fan, I don't really want to see that, but it would be good for the NFL. Probably good for Aaron Rodgers, a fresh change and opportunity to be somewhere different. And also just overall for the league, for the division, from Mike Tomlin, just an outstanding coach who coincidentally has an NFL record, 15 straight seasons with a winning record. That's insane, right? But anyway, not necessarily for this podcast. This podcast is about giving Big Ben his flowers. Again, he doesn't necessarily, for the most part, have the most gaudy of numbers. Obviously, you look at Tom Brady, who's on top of just about everything. He's on top of the touchdowns. He's on top of the passing. Obviously, the 7 Super Bowl wins, et cetera, et cetera. So we're not, going to put Big Ben up there. Of course, Tom Brady also completely skews the way we look at quarterbacks for what he's been able to do over his career, obviously into even the later portions of his career. But again, Big Ben, tremendous career. This is a guy that many people may be sad to see walk off, but this is a guy also many people will be happy to see walk off into the sunset, because obviously, as we said, over the last few years, he simply has not been able to play at the level that his organization needed him to play at in order to be successful. We know that this league now is so quarterback driven. This game is so quarterback driven. You need a special guy pulling the trigger, because it's almost impossible to win at the highest of levels if you don't have that guy. Funny thing though, a lot of times we look at Big Ben and we say, well, he's been shot for years. And yeah, he hasn't been great over the last 3 years. And we know that in a game like football, when the end comes, it comes very quickly. But if we go back to just 2018, this is a guy who led the league in passing with 5,129 yards and 34 touchdowns. Well, he didn't lead in touchdown passes, but he had 34 touchdowns, was really going down the field, averaging 320 receiving yards passing yards per game. So he was still effective as few as, 3 regular seasons ago. Now, again, in the NFL, 3 regular seasons is a long time. And then obviously we saw 2019, he missed a lot to injury, came back in 2020 and 2021 and looked like a shell of himself. But at the end of the day, I guess we look at it for the totality of his career, and we say Big Ben was one of the great ones. He's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. And it's coincidence that when he gets the gold jacket, when he wore the black and gold for 18 years in his career. So it's going to match up, and he's going to go in with a lot of other Steeler greats. So he should be right at home in Canton, Ohio. Yeah, I guess we look at it and we say, if you love football, no matter what team you root for, thanks for the memories, Big Ben. You gave us a lot of them over your career. Now we see, because you pretty much held the Steelers hostage over the last few years, now we see what are they going to do at the quarterback position. This year is not great in terms of the draft, and the Steelers, since they made the playoffs, they wouldn't be picking high enough to be able to get a great quarterback out of the draft, even if it was. So if you're Pittsburgh, do you try to stopgap and get one out of the draft next year? Who knows? Do you make a run again at Aaron Rodgers, or maybe a Derek Carr, a guy who possibly could be available, be a free agent? Not sure. Definitely can't wait to see what they're going to do. Again, as a Ravens fan, hopefully they do the wrong thing. But no, in seriousness, as a sports journalist, when the Steelers are good, that's better for the league, because they're one of the banner franchises. Now, I'm not a sports snob or elitist in saying that, oh, I hope the Steelers are good, and that means that, one of the I don't want to say lower level, but smaller market teams are not going to be as good, because I love the parity that we're seeing in the NFL, and that's what makes the NFL so amazing. But I definitely believe, no, not believe. I think it's definitely fair to say that when Pittsburgh is an outstanding football team, it's better for the NFL on the whole. So yeah. Anyway, say it again. Big Ben, thank you for the memories. Wish you the best in retirement. We'll see what the Steelers do. And so, yeah. So that's it. Gonna go ahead and get out of here on that note, talking about Big Ben and the Steelers. If you've enjoyed the content, please go ahead and click that like button and click the subscribe button in the lower right corner of your screen. Also, click the bell so you can be notified when new content comes out. If you want the audio only version, pretty much anywhere your audio podcasts are available, you can subscribe to the show. And if your audio podcast platform allows it, please give us a 5-star rating. Helps us move up in the algorithm so that we're more easily found, more people can get the show. And if you like the show, don't keep it to yourself. Please share it with whoever else you know that's a sports fan, or maybe not even a sports fan, but you just like the show. All right, thanks. I'm out. Peace.